Good morning, folks. This is Lofty, the Lofty biker, John Lofty. Today I'm going a little ride out of St Ives down towards Land End on the Atlantic Highway, and I just wanted to talk to you about my R1200RS. More of a living with rather than a full review. So I bought this bike off Ocean BMW at Falmouth just over a year ago to go on my Picos tour with the lads, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. At the time I hadn't got the bar risers, but I had got the high seat and I'd got the lower screen. But over the 12 months or 13 months since I've had it, I've tweaked it bits and pieces. I've had a service and I've gone through a couple of sets of tyres. So what's it like to live with? Well, whether you're new to BMW or whether you've ever had or ever wanted a BMW, the Boxer engine has been developed over a number of years. In its latest incarnation, the 1250 with the shift cam technology is probably the pinnacle of engineering. It's gone through single cam, twin cam, overhead cams, you name it. Liquid cooling added quite a little bit of extra power. This is the liquid cooled. A lot of people call it the R12LC. Liquid cooling give the bike the extra power to knock it up to 125 brake. I believe the 1250 is an extra 10. But 125 brake with lots of grunt, lots of torque. Most of the power is delivered quite low, which makes a very, very usable touring machine. So whether you're one up or two up, they've always got the extra power to pull. It's got a useful tank. Generally, if I'm touring with a mix of motorway, A roads, B roads, it's fairly spirited riding, I can generally get 200 miles to the tank, which at the end of the day is very usable and longer than most people's derriere would like to go, or even a helmet brake, come to think of it. The one thing I first found strange, because I came from triples, I've always been a triple rider, mainly Triumphs. I've had a few twins, but mainly triples. Found the power delivery of the twin slightly different. Doesn't spin so quick, but to be fair, with all the extra development they've put in on this motor, it's very refined. They're fairly noisy because the sticky out pots, everything's out in the atmosphere, so you do get a bit of valve noise. You can hear the top end whirring away. But to be fair, in general day-to-day use, this engine is probably one of the best engines out there. Not too powerful, but when you want to, just take off. It'll show, lift its skirt, show its petticoat, and show you a clean pair of heels. I did mention the ergonomics. The one thing, being tall, I'm not called a Lofty rider for nothing. I'm 6'5", about 17 stone, 34 inside leg. I'm a tall lad, so the sports seat, the high seat, was a must. It does make hell of a difference. It's a sports tourer and it does look like a motorcycle, but I did find to keep the ergonomics level I needed to get the heli bars. The heli bars raise the bars up about an inch and a quarter, and they pull them back towards the rider around an inch. So really you're more or less keeping a standard machine, if you like. So what did I find strange about this and learning to live with? Well, the first thing I had to do really was move the sat nav. I just couldn't stand it positioned down here on top of the headstock. It was a waste of time, because I do like to look at things occasionally, not just listen. And the other thing I found strange, after riding quite a few bikes, my previous bike to this was a Yamaha Kenny Roberts XSR 900. Fantastic piece of kit. And you get so used to riding bikes with digital speedos that when you come back to a more traditional speedo, you find it very difficult to get your head round. Now, I know a lot of people change the dash and they put it so as they get the big digi speedo, but then you don't get all the other information you need. So I have persevered with the speedometer, and I have got used to it. But it is strange that in 2018 it didn't get the digi dash. The new model, of course, across the range with all the BM bikes now, have got the fantastic TFT dash. Probably one of the nicest dashes on any bike. Nothing can be retrofitted because they're all linked into the ECU, and it's got a different ECU on the new bike. But it's more of a conventional bike, the R1200. And the later LC GS's were the same. They had like a triple clock affair with a little LCD in the corner, and the later ones were an optional extra to have the TFT. And I do think most people who rode one with the TFT had the TFT. Tyres. I've gone through 2 sets of tyres. I had a couple of Z8 Interacts, which I found the originals, the OEM ones, I found them quite good, to be fair, so I had another set. But to be honest, I wasn't very impressed with the longevity of the second set. I don't know what it was. They seemed to scrub quickly and wear. The back one wore down to the carcass, 4,000 miles. Now, I know I can be a little bit aggressive sometimes, whether it's accelerating or on the brakes, but I do normally expect to get a minimum of 5,000 miles out of a set of tyres. And most of that riding was done one up. So it wasn't like I was overloading or putting a lot of extra weight on the back. Anyway, so this time, after watching the reviews and reading the magazines and whatever, I've decided to put on the Dunlops, the Road Smarts. I've had friends use Road Smarts on various bikes and got good longevity out of them, a good road holding, and they're not bad in the wet, to be fair. So I scrubbed them in yesterday, and I'm out today talking to you really about the R1200RS. I would like to do a back-to-back comparison with the new RS. I'm not sure whether it's still on demo at Ocean Falmouth, but I'm going to give them a ring and see if I can find out if they've got an R1200RS. A 1250, sorry. If they haven't got the 1250, they might have the R or even a GS. The engines are more or less the same, I believe. I have been told the cardan ratios are slightly different on the RS, but I'm not so sure. I think it's more or less the same unit. Of course, the RS has got proper forks. I'll just nip past him. There you go, instant grunt. Second gear into third gear, beautiful. So I would like to do a back-to-back review. To be honest with you, I find it quite hard to understand how much better the 1250 must be. I'll just wait for these two, because everybody you speak to says it's night and day, night and day. Well, to be honest with you, I think this engine is absolutely sublime. If a little noisy, it's beautiful. Really smooth. It's not like the old BMs with clunky, horrible gearboxes. You're always going to get a certain amount of direct drive with a clunky box with a shaft, because, like I say, direct drive. You're driving directly from the crankshaft into the gearbox onto the rear wheel through the cardan. So it's going to be a bit sticky, but to be honest with you, the quick shifter works extremely well. Some people say, oh, don't use it first and second or whatever. I tend to use it mainly when I'm accelerating or decelerating. The auto blipper is absolutely sublime, can't fault it at all. And I find, to be honest, as long as you get the revs right, the quick shifter works right. So here we are, just passing the Gurnard Z. I'll just open it up a little bit. So that's second gear, third, fourth. See, very little. Just use the auto blip, I drop it back down into second. Still a bit of traffic about. I have got a Leo Vinci pipe on, and it gives you a bit of a pop and a bang and a crackle, which I quite enjoy actually. Some people aren't so keen. I'll just take your time around here. Back brake stabilises the bike superb. Look at that. I find the handling very, very sublime. Thank you, miss. So we just go around these couple of bends and we come to an open stretch. I'll give it a bit of the beans and show you the quick shifter in action. Of course, the RS and the R have both got conventional forks. After riding a GS, it's quite strange going back to conventional forks, because I do think the setup of on the GS works really well. But these forks aren't bad at all. They was derived from the RR forks. It's very, very windy today, so I hope you can hear this. If you look out to sea, white caps everywhere. So tooting along nicely in fifth at a national speed limit. So here's the old auto blip. 1, 2 cogs, you don't even feel it. Absolutely superb. Quick shifter, 1, 2, and back down again. It makes spirited riding very, very easy. Road's tightening up a little bit over the cattle grid. A lot of people have trouble with screens. It is a funny one, screens. You talk on the forum about screens. To be honest with you, if you don't mind a bit of wind, the standard screen in its lowest setting is probably the best. You get the wind directed at your chest, but you get a bit of head noise. You don't really get any buffeting. I found with the standard screen, when I raised it into the upper position on the top 4 bolts, the buffeting was unreal. I just couldn't cope with it. I just nipped past him. So I read about the old Ergo 3D and I fitted one of those, and to be honest with you, although it helped, it didn't do the trick at all. It wasn't really raising it up enough. And I thought, I don't want to go into the minefield of screen after screen after screen. So I had read that the big power bronze, which is this one, works quite well, especially with the lip on top. So there was one for sale second hand, 30 quid or something on eBay. So I bought it thinking I'd rather spend 30 quid on a screen, and if it don't work, bin it or sell it on, than spend 120 quid on a screen and it don't work at all. But to be honest with you, in the upper setting on the high bolts with the lip on, I can sit on the motorway and open my visor if I wanted to. It's removed the buffeting. The one drawback is I don't get no wind across my helmet enough to clear the visor. So if you go out on a wet day, you do get a bit misty in the helmet. So, and especially since I've been using a microphone, I've had to close the vents off to make sure I don't get too excessive wind noise. But there you go, it's horses for courses. I think, in conclusion, the 1200RS is a very, very underrated bike. I do think there are a lot of people riding around on GS's with lowered seats, lowered frames, all sorts of things. Would probably find if they had an RS, it would suit them more. And it does look like a motorbike, let's face it. Doesn't look like an overland tractor. Don't get me wrong, I've had lots of adventure bikes and I quite like the styling. I love the GS, I think it's a sublime bike. But at the end of the day, when you pull up, it's nice to have something that looks a little bit different, isn't it? Why does everybody want a Panigale? It's because when you park the Panigale, everybody looks at it and goes, wow, that is amazing. Whether you'd want to ride one or buy one, I don't know. It's like the other way around, V-Stroms. The V-Strom is probably the most underrated of all the adventure bikes. But when you park it up, you don't hear people look at the V-Strom and go, cool, that's sexy. No, it's been tickled with the ugly stick. And that is the problem with a lot of adventure style bikes. So, there you go. The R1200RS. I've put a bit of a walk together video together, which I'll add on the end, telling you a bit about what I've actually done and how I've modified it. So the big question is, after a year, would I change it or chop it in for the 1250? Well, at the moment, it's a big kick, financially of course. These ain't bad value. You can pick them up 16, 17, 18 plates with very, very little mileage. And to be honest, I'm not sure why people buy sports tourers and only put 2,000 miles a year on. But that's hey, we're all different. So if you were in the market for one, rather than pay the best part of 16, 17 or 18 grand with the bits for a brand new one, you could pick one of these up between 7 and 8 or 9 grand. Absolute bargain. Hiya folks, it's the Lofty Biker here, out on Goonilly Downs on the Lizard Peninsula. I wanted to make a bit of a video about my R1200RS Sport SE for a while, and I've actually not got round to it. So here we are on a lovely sunny day. There she is in the background. R1200RS Sport SE in frozen bronze. What I wanted to do was actually talk about some of the additions I've made to the bike. I bought it new in 2018 from Ocean BMW in Falmouth. I've put a number of additions on the bike. The first thing I actually did was I ordered it with a tall seat. The sports seat made hell of a difference. The one knock-on effect from having the sports seat was that I did really need some bar risers, so I went with the heli bar risers. One thing I noticed from the start with this bike, it's beautiful, it runs lovely, very pokey, but you do get a lot of wind blast with the original screen. The original screen, whether it's in the low setting, the high setting, whichever setting you want to put it in, the original screen seemed to give me lots and lots of buffeting. I started with the Wonderlic lip, the 3D ergo. I put that on the original screen and I raised it up, and I found it was a bit better, but it weren't quite big enough. And on all the forums, everybody says how this screen's good, this screen's crap, and it's a lot of money to keep buying screens if you can't get the right one. I actually picked this one up second hand on eBay. It's a Power Bronze tall screen, it's the big one. I have it on the highest setting with the ergo lip on, and I find it really does help on the motorways. The one drawback is when it's wet and rainy, you don't tend to get enough wind on the visor to keep it 100% clear, even with the pin locking. So it's catch as catch can really. Great when you're on the motorway in the summer or whatever, but when it's wet, it does decrease the amount of wind blast. Another little addition I got was I bought the MotoMate relocation kit for the sat-nav. This was one of the best things I did. As you can appreciate, when you're actually sitting on the bike with the sat-nav down here, you can't see anything. So by relocating it up, above the clocks makes a mega difference. Also, while I was on, I'd got these little handlebar guards. They're the Acerbis ones. I had them fitted on my previous bike. They're very, very good. They keep a lot of the wind blast off your knuckles, and they're just enough to stop the rain and the cold in the winter. I fitted the genuine BMW engine guards. I'm not a fan, don't like them, but to be honest, these are big heavy boys, and when they go over, you'll know about it, and it does protect a lot. On the back end, I put the mud sling on. Great addition, did a cracking job. I do find when I'm up touring with the extra weight on, the wife tends to slip about a bit, so I did fit this Tribo seat. It does stop her sliding. It's fantastic. I've got the 3 boxes. I've got the top box with a Wonderlic top on it, extra bits, fantastic. I've got the genuine BMW side cases. They match the bike lovely, and they do a cracking job. I picked up the Leo Vinci second hand. Lovely, very noisy. I'll give you a little bit of a taster of it. I'll just start it up. Here we go. Oh, there we go. That's the standard Leo Vinci with a baffle in. Here we go. Very, very throaty indeed. Beautiful. Love it to bits. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it for a bit of a ride, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it handles, the quick shifter, the auto blip, various little bits and pieces about the bike. So I'll be back in a moment. So here we go, riding through Pendine. I'm going to sign off, so I don't want to talk forever. And I'll see you soon, hopefully, on a 1250 RS, and I can tell you how different it is. This is me, the lofty biker, saying ta-da for now. See you soon.